Imagine you're walking through a supermarket and you are in front of a chocolate display and you want to buy dark chocolate. And then you saw it says 90% cocoa. And my first thought is this true? Or are they lying to us?
So, what a welcoming, Karen. Thank you so much. Today we were talking the essentials of consuming chocolate or cacao. So we will start our story, our podcast, telling the etymology, telling where the cacao was discovered, which part of the world they found the first cacao trees, a little bit of the process, a little bit of the experience that the humans have with cacao in this first meeting. So welcome again. Thank you for coming here to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm very good. This is so fantastic. We're gonna travel backwards, have flashbacks, history, and thank you again for watching and hearing us. Let's start from, I don't know if there's a beginning, but let's break down this.
Okay, so this story starts with a tree. What do you have to say? The story begins with a tree. And as we said before, we put the cacao as a human. So we humanize the cacao. So imagine this new human is already born, right? Mm-hmm. So how we or the Europeans found the cacao? Mm-hmm. And since when the cacao have this name? So I will start saying that when the Europeans invite the Central American and South American, the first thing is we can imagine them looking different plants, different animals, a totally different world, and you have to create names to that new species. Correct. So that's how the name of cacao comes alive. You have some really good information about this scientific guy that owns the name of Theoroma cacao.
So the first thing is that we are talking about Theobroma cacao as how they name this cacao tree or plant, referring to in general like all these plant. And Carl Linnaeus is the first person, and he's the father of taxonomy, and he's the father of also all the system of kingdoms that we know. Let's call it plant and minerals and animals, who start observing and describing in all his trips and his exploration to define whatever you observe, and you have to put name as you said. So first, let's break down the word Theobroma.
Okay, please.
So Theo in Greek means God, mm-hmm. and Broma means food.
Yep.
So we start in a recognizing here that cacao already is a food of God. Yeah. And also the word cacao comes from the Nahuatl, mm-hmm. and is pre-Hispanic word. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Cacao.
Cacao.
Yep.
We're talking here about a name that was on the 1715, and it was Carl Linnaeus who just named it. But this is interesting because the majority of books, and when you Google and all the scientific research, it says Theobroma cacao is food of the gods. But then, because here in Frido we go a little bit deeper in things, we have to see the reason why he was mentioned that. And how he can create this amazing name for such a plant. What is the special thing about this? Because it's incredible. So Carl Linnaeus, when he was exploring this, in general, when in his trip to the Caribbeans and in all, let's say, pre-Hispanic times, we're talking about here in the, as I said, in the 1700s, mid 1700s. So there's three explanations of why Theobroma cacao. It means food of the gods. So first, he was a little bit funny. He was have a sense of humor. He likes to enjoy what he was exploring. And saying this, his group of students, his favorite groups of students, put the names, and then he comes with ideas and everything in a responsible way. And he used a system that we're still using it, that is binomial, which is using two words. And I make you an example: Homo sapiens, which means wise man. It's the same as Theobroma cacao. And if you see in general all the etymology of words, it always have these two, like two words together.
Yep.
There is a second explanation of why he put that name, and is about, he considers this food was for the rich, was for the priest, was for only the upper class, only for early people who was in the power. So only for people who can afford it.
Cool.
So you put the cacao in a top level. It's not easy, accessible food. Another interesting one is he was really aware of the heritage of the Aztecs and how these cultural civilizations have the relationship with cacao. Like, they use this cacao in ceremonies and in rituals. Not a cacao ceremony, a whole ceremony where they include cacao, okay, which is different. And this is also named as a tribute to them, as a tribute and recognizing this plant. So this is interesting because when we're talking about recognizing this heritage, I have to mention something that is a very important book that he wrote. Let's say he just wrote it, but it was Hans. There's another important person here. He's a little bit older than him, but from contemporary, of course, is Hans Sloan. He's British, and he's more a sketch, or he's an illustrator. So you always need someone as a scientific, but you need someone who's been, just
like Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin, or Diego and Karen. You need always to debate. You need always to just confront your ideas, and that's good. So he was illustrating all the plants, and he was trying to preserve. Nowadays, in the there's a museum in the British Museum in London where you can see all the illustrations of Hans Sloan, or his all this voyage, all this trip, and there's a beautiful part when you can see the illustration of cacao leaves, fruits, pods, flowers, and you see these tiny flowers compared to the fruit, and on the other page you see the real leaf preserved.
Wow.
From the 1753, and we're talking about like late 800s, let's say. Both of them spent a lot of time in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, exploring the cacao. So what also we say thank you to these European people, we know the name, is because they know about cacao because of their exploration and their the way they connect with the indigenous at that time. Last but not least, it's about that for them, chocolate was fantastic, the way and how it tastes, and how you feel is the ultimate food, is the premium food, is the incredible taste, is the pride. So at the end, see how beautiful is all the explanation just to call it Theobroma cacao. Thank you, Linus.
Thank you, Linus. Thank you. Well, really important things. We can see since the beginning how the name was connected with something mystical. Food of the gods, or food, God food, right? God food.
God food.
So, because in our next episodes, we will talk about the connection between with the mystical and spiritual connection with the plant, right? But just to put it here at the beginning, Linus maybe was channeling something, right? Or maybe he saw the ceremonies, right? That's why they put food of the gods. That's a good thing. Then I will talk a little bit where we as humans founded the first cacao trees. So it says it grows in the north of the Amazons, right? And we have to say that the civilizations that they were living there, they know about the cacao, but they are using the cacao not for a drink, the cacao was not domesticated, and they open the fruit, right? They open the cacao, and usually they eat or drink the white pulp. In parts of Brazil.
How do you call this?
Oh yeah,
because there's many things about cacao.
We will go. We will go.
Oh, we'll go. Okay.
And they were drinking this white pulp that we will talk after. So just to say, until here we don't know chocolate. We know cacao, right? We know cacao. It's another fruit. Amazon and all this area have a lot of fruits. So then the cacao start traveling to the north. There is some theories says that maybe it was the main civilizations trying to domesticate the cacao. Another theory says that the monkeys is the first distributor of the cacao, as they eating. The monkeys can break the pod. This is the pod. The monkeys can break the pod, can eat the seeds, and then they throw it out, and then is the cacao. How can I say, like
just spread?
Spread,
okay.
Right?
Yep.
So now the cacao is in Costa Rica, in El Salvador, in all that kind of more Central America, right? Imagine the cacao is going to the north. They say the first proofs that we have for the cacao being domesticated was in Salvador, Honduras, and then we start jumping to Mexico, right? So now the difference here is we know that cacao trees starts, or our first approach was in the north of the Amazons, and then we know that the cacao started going to the north. And then now we have another theory that says that the first proof when the cacao fruit was transformed to a drink, you can Google it in the books, was the Olmecs in Mexico.
The civilization.
The first civilization to transform the cacao seeds that are inside of here into a drink were the Olmecs. The other ones eat the fruits, right? And the other ones were domesticated the fruit. The ones to transform the fruit into a drink called chocolate was the Olmecs, Mexico. We are right here?
Yes, you are right.
Okay. Then we will talk a little bit about how is the tree, what is the fruit, what is the process of growing the cacao tree. We will start like really simple, okay? So cacao tree takes around 2 to 3 years to give us the first pods, right? When the cacao have something special, because these pods, they growing from the trunk, not from the leaves. That's a different thing. So when you say that Linus and his friend, they were drawing, imagine they are drawing the cacao tree, and they are sending these images to Europe, they think that they are growing wrong, because they haven't seen a fruit growing from the trunk. So these guys were
good observants.
Good,
right?
good observants. So they have to prove. So the cacao, I don't know if there is another fruit, but the cacao is growing from the trunk. That's amazing. And the process is you will have these 2-3 years, and then the cacao start growing these beautiful tiny flowers with 5 white petals. Then it's a beautiful story about the flower, how the flower is pollinated.
Yeah.
We will talk this in a different podcast. The story is amazing. But then that's a small flower. So imagine the chocolate start being a flower. Nobody knows about the flower of cacao. That's amazing. You can Google it. It's 5 centimeters petal, 5 centimeters flower. And then she waits to be pollinated. And then we have the fruit growing. Now we have 5 to 6 months to have...
Can I add something into
Please.
quickly? I know we're going to talk about the flower, but just to imagine here how small is the flower. Have you ever seen like a minch? And I'm talking to you like a very pinchy. That's the only insect who can go inside that flower. It's tiny compared to the size of this fruit. So we're talking about actually sizes that are even in cacao. It's amazing. The leaves, the
So
flower,
small.
the cacao, the seed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just to say something, these little mosquitoes, midge, they are the ones that fertilize the flower. And then, as we said, we will talk this more deep after. So then we have the fruit, right? With different colors, depends of the different regions of where the cacao tree is growing. Then you will have this. We will have this. Inside of this, first I have to say the cacao as a fruit needs the human to open it. It's not like other fruits that in that transformation, the fruit itself open. The cacao needs someone to be open. That's why monkeys or humans open this, and when you open this, you will find 30 to 40 cacao seeds covered with a white pulp, right? That white pulp is the sweetness into the cacao. So when you open this, then we have 4 main steps to go to that transformation.
But stop there. How does it taste, the pulp? Because I think it's very far away from the taste of chocolate, because you probably think, oh, the pulp tastes similar, and it's completely opposite. I think it's more zesty, fruity, citrusy.
Citrus
How
is the
it?
word. It's a little bit more sweet. I can share one of my experience in the south of Mexico, in Tabasco, and we were walking in the Cacao, and then you are like 30 degrees, 35 degrees, you are in middle in the jungle, and then these guys, that the farmers, they gave to us at the end of our walking a juice of this white pulp, cold with ice, and honestly is the most delicious part. Some of the ancient cultures, they drink like this, the pulp. In Brazil is really popular. They drink the white
Correct.
pulp. And if you eat, that's a good question, if you eat the seed straight away, the seed is kind of purple color. It's more acid, obviously. It's juicy. It's really fruity. But at the end, they have that flavor of chocolate. But it's more eating like a fruit. It's delicious in all aspects. After this, we have 4 main processes, right? The first one is fermentation. That is really important because a lot of our customers think that cacao is always bitter. And in the fermentation, is a crucial process because it's when cacao can lose that bitterness. It gets all the aromas.
Okay.
So depends on the fermentation. It would allow you.
And is it the fermentation they use leaves, like plantain leaves or
No.
any special leaves? Or
Usually they put it in a wooden boxes
yeah.
for 5-7 days. You have to be really careful because if not, you will lose the acidity of the cacao. 5-7 days, you put it out, and then the next step is the toasting or the roasting. Usually they put mats and then they put it straight to the sun, right? 5-7 days. And then you go to the roasting or toasting. And then we have the wining, that is when they put the shell of the cacao out.
I have a question. How many seeds can I find when I open this cacao pod?
Well, they say 25 to 35. Another one says 30 to 40,
30
right?
to 40. So if I have 40 seeds, which at the end finish, like you end up like
Yes.
this, like the seed, how many of these ones I need to use for make a drink or cup?
So they say one of each have 20 to 25 grams, but when they go through the process of fermentation, they can lose 40 to 50% of the weight.
Wow. Okay.
So we can say, imagine we can make the numbers. If we have 30 and we have 25 grams of each, but maybe could be 15, it's around 300 grams.
300 grams.
Maybe 300 to 500 grams around.
So how many fruits to make just one cup?
Well, that's
see how like
and that's important. Imagine to have one of these. The cacao tree took 3 years, and in the harvest we have to 40 to 50 pots. So
okay.
is not too many.
Not really.
Not really.
We think it's abundance, and it is, but the production in a natural way, it takes time to grow.
It takes time, and also cacao, just to put an example, compare coffee, is really difficult to grow. It's really difficult to grow. It's more difficult than coffee. One thing is the cacao has to be between 20 degrees north and south from the equator, and the cacao needs a lot of humidity, and cacao needs
It needs to be surrounded by a lot of fruit plants, good shadow, humidity, jungle, man. We need jungle to grow. And
yes.
So I'm thinking that's the reason why cacao from Mexico or South America, if you look at the rest of the world, of the planet, you see why it grows in Côte d'Ivoire, which is the Western Africa, and then in Indonesia,
Madagascar, all around. Queensland, Australia, growing. But we have to say, Central and Mesoamerican, we have the pure line of cacao.
It's because we need to talk about the varieties of cacao.
But before, pure line means that they grow and they born in that place.
Okay.
Africa, Indonesia, all the other countries, the countries outside that continent, they were transplanted, transplantations.
Correct.
And the source is different because we know that we are drinking the soil. When people ask us, well, what's the difference? I'm buying cacao from
Ghana.
Bali, from Ghana, blah, 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 blah. Remember the source. And you can, as we said, you can Google it and they will find the sources Mesoamerica, Central America, South America.
So we can say this is like wine or green tea, or even it depends where the soil, where it grows. And of course, Mexican cacao or pre-Hispanic or, Mayan cacao. It's been more than thousands of years having these trees.
Yep.
So we are talking from
the source.
Asian. Okay.
Then we have 22 types of cacao, but we have to say that in our research there is people saying that there are more than 22.
Is it cacao or theobromas?
Cacao.
Cacao.
Cacao as a fruit. I will
Okay.
put example of papayas. They have more than 20 types of papayas, right? And we have this from the scientific perspective, but you go to the farm, some of these farmers say we have more types of cacao that is not registered.
Okay.
It's another different world that we haven't explore and go deep like
Because
this.
it's in the jungle.
But in the book says 22 types of cacao. Only 2 of them we as humans we are using for consume.
Only how many?
2.
2.
That is Theobroma cacao. That is
Correct.
the name that you are saying, and this Theobroma bicolor.
Okay.
There are 2 of these ones. So as you said, you will find different shapes with different colors, different types of cacao.
But very similar in the skin.
This-
When you go into the Amazon, you see a lot of fruits that are kind of a little bit like rusty, or how do you say that? Like all the skin, you know. So that's
Yeah,
also-
it's all of them is quite similar, different colors. They are more round ones, but we are using only 2
okay.
for consuming. One is Theobroma cacao that you will explain a little bit more of this, and this is Theobroma bicolor. In Mexico, we are using the Theobroma bicolor to make a drink called pachaste. I can't remember now exactly.
What's sounds like an owl word.
Yes, it's an owl word, pataste. And the other one is Theobroma cacao. Now we will talk about more. What is the different types of cacao of Theobroma cacao? So
So we would like to just go and have a more cacao drink, because as you know,
we are finished.
the way to continue this beautiful conversation is by drinking cacao.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Welcome back. So we were talking about the types of Theobroma cacao, right? So we have 3 types, and you can share something about this?
Yes. So people think first this is how it looks, and this is just a dry cacao. This is without doing anything. Just leave it there, and then the sun just dry. But normally it seems to be a little bit bigger. But let's talk about the varieties. So let's start with the first one. Which one is the first? Let's talk about the forastero.
Forastero, yeah. So forastero is the main one. The forastero is the 80% of the production worldwide. Forastero, because it's more easy to grow.
Okay.
It's more easy to grow, have more like plain aromas. It can grow more easily everywhere. And was like imagine is the tough guy, right?
Is the Hulk of the cacaos.
Yes.
Is like the robust, and it grows widely. So
Yes.
okay. So when we talk about it grows in the majority of this area that we mentioned before, it means that the cacao from Western Africa is forastero
Yeah, it's forastero and trinitario.
and trinitario. Okay, then we can go to cacao
Criollo.
Criollo.
Criollo. And the cacao criollo, we can say, is the premium one, high quality. It says since the Central Americans, they were growing criollo, Peru, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico. And honestly, there is a place called El Soconusco in Chiapas. And in 17th centuries, maybe before, around, the Soconusco was the most recognized place all around the world with the most premium quality of cacao criollo.
Cacao criollo. Okay.
So they call like almendra blanca. So it's more like a white color. the aromas are so much better, like more essence, more quality of the taste. If you want to do more like a premium chocolate, dark bar chocolate, you can use more the Criollo one.
So if you, for example, you Google, you also see in the varieties the different shapes and colors. So of course, Cacao have this shape, but when we're talking about the first one that was Forastero, it's roast and it's more fat, kind of like more fat. The Criollo, it's more yellow, could be yellowish, because there's different types of colors of cacao. Okay.
Yes, four or five different colors: yellows, greens, reds, browns. It depends of the region. It depends of the type. And then the third one is the Trinitario. And the Trinitario is a hybrid between the Forastero and the Criollo. I think was the island of Trinidad. The island of Trinidad. And this is like big hurricane came to the island, and almost all the cacao criollos, the trees that they were there, they were destroyed. And then these guys want to replace that, so they bring the cacao forastero to the island.
Okay.
And then bringing the cacao forastero, the cacao criollo and the cacao forastero, they meet together and then create the Trinitario. So it's a hybrid. Is the unify of both trees. They created Trinitario. So you can imagine the Trinitario play in the middle of these both characteristics.
Okay.
So now we have three different types of cacao.
So I'm glad that you mentioned hybrid, because that's what we drink in chocolate, no? Hybrid. Pre-Hispanic and European invention. Good. So I have a question. The 70% of the production of cacao production in the world, it's from Western Europe, and the biggest cities that produce cacao for big companies are Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. And we mentioned that in a natural way, cacao grows twice per year, and it takes time. Why we have this amount of chocolate? So why the bar that I was mentioned at the beginning that says 90% cocoa, and we have these massive displays? Is it true at the end of the day that we're talking about how beautiful this plant takes time to grow? So what you can say about this?
Well, you think they are lying to you?
Yes.
Maybe are lying to you too. So as we said, growing cacao is tough. Growing cacao is tough, means it's a lot of effort for a farmer perspective. The second one is that you will see that it's difficult to make money because the big companies controls the price. And the third one is they dilute too much our chocolates. Then we are not receiving this. We are receiving sugars, additive, and another flavors. We have to say this. At the beginning, you say that you want to buy a 70% dark, 90% cocoa, but you don't say cacao.
I say cocoa.
You say cocoa. So what's the difference between these two words? So
it's a misconception of cocoa and cacao.
I will put pretty simple because it's a misunderstanding. So cacao means before process.
Okay.
Cocoa means after process. So cacao means that you respect all the ingredients that have in, and you don't put anything out, you don't put anything in. That's cacao.
Just pure paste.
Pure
Leave
paste.
it like that.
Pure paste, living like that, is like the fruit, blah, 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 blah. We can say, if they put something out, usually the fats of the cacao go out, and they put something in, we can say like cocoa it's a blend of things, right? Cacao, in other ways, means respect the plant.
Mhm.
In a different kind of process, there is people that stay with all the ingredients, right? And there is people that puts out things and add things. So we can understand when you are going to the supermarket that you have maybe to double check if they are saying cacao or they are saying cocoa. Because at the end, they can say you 19% cocoa, 90% in which part of the process? That's the other thing. 19% cocoa when you open this, 90% cocoa when you was doing all the fermentation, or 90% cocoa in the bar, because they don't specify in which part of the process has the 90% cocoa.
Correct.
And cocoa can be 1% of cacao, and 89% on other things.
Okay.
So when you ask at the beginning if they are lying to us, or we are misunderstanding things,
Or misleading, because also it's not only the label that says 90% cocoa, but it also attracts my attention that it says Ghana, Côte d'Ivoire, and now we're talking about that's probably the biggest production, and we know the slavery behind all this. But when you look at the label again and you see Guatemala, Peruvian, very rare to see also Mexico, we are also talking about another thing, this is ethic, is the traceability of the process is clear, is sustainable, are they paying good the farmers? There is a lot of things behind a chocolate bar.
That we will talk about all that kind of things. Just to get close to getting to this ending of the podcast, we will have to say simple things. The cacao is a tree, 2 to 3 meters. The cacao starts being a flower, then it's a fruit. This is a fruit. This is the pot of cacao. This is not the cacao beans. Inside of this, we have 25 to 35 cacao seeds. These seeds fermented, toasted, and then we ground it, and then we have a pure paste of cacao. When that paste start adding things, then becomes chocolate.
And paste.
Really easy things, right? Simple things that we have to know of one of the most consuming products worldwide.
Yes.
That's our first step. The etymology, you know what's the name come from. Something else that we have to add to our podcast.
There's not for today, but there's always more to add. And the next time you're gonna know the reason why we also use just cacao with water and not with milk. So thank you for your time and attention again. And I hope you learned today something very important. So the next time you buy a chocolate bar that is 90% cocoa, you at least know what's going on behind.
Thank you.
Thank you.